is the very core of these Beatitudes. These are not just about being rich or being poor, being lonely or being happy, being hungry or being satisfied. That is also, of course, what the text says. But it is paradoxical language. Who of us, if asked outside the church, not here, outside, if you were asked in a survey, would you like to be rich or poor? I think all of us would say rich. But if I ask you here in church, no, poor. If they ask you outside, would you like to be hungry or starving? We will say hungry or satisfied. We will say satisfied, full. But when you come to church, we want to be poor, we want to be simple, we want to be hungry, we want to be sad. Well, thanks be to God. But you have to see if that's the way you are living. And that's the real core of this liturgy today. The word today, the second letter, the first letter of the Corinthians we heard in the second reading says this: if Christ was not risen from the dead, then our hope is vain, and we are the most pitiable among all people. I repeat, this is the very heart of this liturgy, to understand well what it says. If Jesus was not risen from the dead, meaning Jesus was just a great man, a great leader, a prophet, but if he was not risen from the dead, meaning he is not God, then our hope in this life is useless, and we are the most pitiable of all people. Why to be chaste? Why to be faithful? Why not to have premarital sex? Why not to do drugs? Why not to enjoy life? Why not to do what you want? And so on and so forth. I don't do it because of love of God, because I know that's the right thing to do, because he said so, because he's God. But if he's not God, then a life of sacrifices for what? So the question of this liturgy is really this: is my life founded on God? Are my decisions founded on God? Are my thoughts, my actions, my plans in the family, in my job, career, studies, relationship, in God? How would you know? How would you know if your life is blessed in God or is centered on you? Says the first reading, you will tell them by the fruits. If it bears good fruit, it is planted by a course of good water, not in the desert. We have a little problem in the Catholic Church at times. We over-spiritualize just everything. Everything becomes spiritual when we are here, but then we become very practical when we leave church. How would you know if your business in the year 2018 did fine? Well, very simple. You sit down with your CPA and you go through the numbers and you see if you made a profit or not. If you made a profit, that means that your business did well. And if you made more money this year than last year, that means that it's doing better. So what you're doing for the company, for yourself, in your job, is working well. You see fruits. How would you know if your studies are according to the will of God? Well, very simple. When you go and get your marks at the end of the year, your results, you know if your grades are high or low, if you passed or didn't pass, and how better you've done as compared to last year. So you know clearly if you are studying well or not. How do you know if your life is being lived now in the will of God? will say, I will pray concretely, how do you know, in the decisions you take. Sometimes it means to have renunciations. I can be full, but I'm hungry. I renounce to something. I can enjoy myself, but I don't do it. I don't buy this thing. I don't go to this place. I don't take this break. I renounce to something. I can be rich, but I want to be poor. I can enjoy myself by doing this, but I renounce. There are concrete ways of showing that our life is centered in God. There are many ways each one of us, according to your condition, may think of some. You know, I want to give you just one example that strikes me a lot. And I never spoke about this, but since we are approaching Lent, I'd like to say something. One way also of measuring how much my life is centered in God or not. Generally, there is this sort of tradition that wants us to take a break, an out-of-town trip, vacation, during the most sacred week of the year, that we Catholics call Holy Week. What is Holy Week? It is a week that becomes holy because for us who believe that God was crucified, died, and was buried, and after 3 days he rose again, is the center of my life, because in that week I contemplate the reason why I do what I do, and I contemplate and thank God for the reasons that I don't do what I don't do. So that's the very heart of my faith. It's what every year reminds me, what St. Paul says in the second reading. If Christ is not risen from the dead, then our hope, our life is useless. Why are you living differently from everyone else? So that week is fundamental for me every year, to be reminded of what I do and why I do it, of what I don't do and why I don't do it. Now you ask yourself this question. If you sent your child to ballet classes and you accompany her every week throughout the year, and on this given week is the end of the year, there will be a recital, and finally all that she's been striving for will be played on stage, make you very proud. Will you miss that? Will she want to miss that? If you watched all games of the NBA or the PBA for your favorite team, all the games because you love basketball, and then you're given 2 tickets front row next to the bench to watch the finals, will you want to go there? Or you'll pass them on? If you've been studying very hard to achieve your dreams, will you want to go and see how you did by having final examinations or not? So what I'm saying is, we have to look into our life and see which are our priorities. I say this very respectfully, because I know many of you personally. If I tell my children, go to church, go to church, go to church every Sunday, and then I tell you during Holy Week, let's go out of town, and that's the very heart of our faith, there is something that doesn't add up. Now, just to be clear, I love traveling. And I think it's a very good way of also experiencing God. and family and bonding. But there are 365 days to do that. It is not the calendar deciding when you take a break. It is you that tell the calendar when the break will be. So the question is this: am I living in blessedness? Meaning, am I living in God, in His decisions, in His plans, in His will? Or am I living according to my plans, to my will, to my desires? That makes the difference between the ones who are blessed, and the Gospel says the ones who are not. Doesn't look like that way, but the truth is that is that way.